At Config 2025, you famously proclaimed that product management is dead. Why?
I have been in this industry for now 20 years, maybe more. I've been a product manager and a product leader and product adjacent for many years. And the past 24 months have changed completely my mindset about how things get built and the role that product managers fit in that organization. I think the things that product managers have held most dear as their skills and their contributions to teams are now collapsing in cost, they're collapsing in time, and candidly, they're collapsing in value. And so if product managers are not thinking about how they are going to provide unique, human, and high impact value to their teams in this new age of AI, our roles are definitely dead.
So what's changing specifically about the role?
So I think things that product managers for many, many years, or at least over the course of my career, have held as their highest value contributions to the process are starting to collapse in the time and effort and impact it has to the building process. And so what I mean is stakeholder management and documentation and being the voice of the customer and even, dare I say, strategy is something that can now be done in minutes in a pretty high quality way if you're intellectually honest. And so in this world where where product managers have really held very closely this very specific role in a building team, when you see those tasks start to fall away from the core role, then you have to ask yourself, well, what is it we do with our 40 or 50 hours a week? What do I do on this team that adds unique and human value? And how do I justify candidly my existence on this team? And I don't think it's happening everywhere as aggressively as it might in the future, but I think it's going to happen. And PMs really need to be prepared for that new world and figure out where they're going to add unique and differentiated value.
So the interesting one there is stakeholder management. If I see sort of a defense or if I try to steelman the other side, that's the part that people are holding on to is, oh, well, PMs, we're 9 to 5 in meetings. Like AI can't replace that. How does AI come into the picture there?
I mean, I think what people really don't want to face is the intersection of a move to remote work and how replaceable stakeholder management can start to become. Because at the end of the day, a lot of us show up to our colleagues as avatars and chats. It's actually very bizarre if you think about it. We've shifted an entire workforce to expect to interact with each other largely asynchronously and largely not in a human to human nature through remote online. And so I think people overestimate the friction of working with a digital colleague or an AI colleague. I've certainly had this experience where I've been using Devin from Cognition Labs as truly one of our interns or one of our many interns. And I operate very seamlessly with that AI colleague as just that, a colleague. And so I think it betrays a lack of imagination on what the future can look like to say, oh, you could just never. I am so humbled at this point by the advances of technology that I see in a field that I have been in for, again, many decades. And I want to be imaginative. I want to cast forward the future I believe is possible. And I think that's much more advanced than what we have now. That being said, I do think one, people crave human to human interaction. Two, you lose a lot of nuance when you put a machine in the loop and not a human in the loop. And three, I still think the human brain is the best large language model on the market. I was thinking about this yesterday. I was thinking, why would a AI colleague fail, or why would it be hard for a team to interact with AI? And I think as somebody who's built these quote unquote agents, worked with them, played with them, one of the things that I think is in order to create high quality with these AI products, you constrain the surface area of their skills.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gibson AI, the future of backend development. Imagine a world where designing, deploying, and scaling your database is as intuitive as having a conversation. Gibson AI makes that a reality. Gibson AI is your very own AI database engineer. In just minutes, you can chat with Gibson to design production-grade data models, automatically generate secure REST APIs, and even eliminate technical debt that's been holding your team back. Whether you're launching a brand new product or modernizing an existing app, Gibson AI handles everything from data migrations to integration, so you can focus on building what matters most. Gibson AI is built for the modern engineering team, empowering you to accelerate development, reduce tedious coding, and deliver powerful solutions faster than ever before. Head over to gibsonai.com/Akash to experience the future of automated data modeling. That's gibsonai.com/AAKASH and use code AKASH50 for 50% off your first 12 months. Today's episode is brought to you by Maven. The problem with most courses online, like Udemy, is there's no live component, and the instructors aren't experts in their fields, they're professors. At Maven, you get direct live access to experts and operators from the world's best tech companies. You can't get that access anywhere else, in any university, and you usually can't find them on YouTube either. I've featured so many of Maven's experts in the newsletter and podcast for that reason. To help you out, I've put together a collection of courses I recommend at maven.com/x/Akash. This includes courses like AI prototyping for PMs, product sense for PMs, and getting an AI PM certification. Visit it now at maven.com/x/AAKASH.
So, Devin can be really good at engineering, but can't adapt as easily unless the product kind of makes upgrades. ChatPRD is a great product owner, but might not adapt as well to a new environment or a new situation. And so I think about adaptability, I think about resilience, I think about improvisation as things that are uniquely human that we're really good at. And I do think there's something about not losing that as we work more and more with these AI agents and colleagues.
So the AI colleague element is
Mhm.
really an important part here, but I guess the AI colleagues aren't quite there yet. Like they can't go and train your sales team on the new feature. They can't go answer your customer support team's questions about how users handle this complex flow. So when do you foresee kind of this huge reckoning happening for the PM role?
So, unfortunately, you have me on this podcast. And whenever anybody says AI can't, I go, have you tried? Like, have you legitimately tried? I think there's a difference between no one's done at scale adoption or built $1 billion SaaS business off of a problem space versus quote unquote AI can't. I actually created over last week, we had Hack Week at LaunchDarkly. It was during our sales kickoff week. I built an agent to ingest all of our product marketing, sales enablement materials and created basically like a co-pilot for our revenue organization to learn and train and answer questions about our products from a customer perspective. It was for exactly the use case you said that you couldn't do, train the field and train CS. And I did that in, I don't know, 2.5 hours pretty casually and got very, very high quality outputs. And so, I tend to tell people when they say they can't, I say, have you tried? Now, what I don't think has changed as quickly and what I anticipate will take longer than sort of my optimistic or technology forward point of view is organizational adaptation and individual workflow adaptation to these new models. I candidly think it's hard to change human behavior. And we have been trained over and over in our careers in tech to use a certain set of tools, a certain set of methods to get things done. And those things become muscle memory. They become professional muscle memory. When you need to reach out to a colleague, you go to Slack and you send them a message. When you need to communicate something, you make a doc or a slideshow. When you need to measure something, you write a SQL query or you build a spreadsheet. It's just muscle memory. It is very hard for people to adapt that muscle memory to a new platform unless the value is so obviously there that the pain of workflow change is worth the switch. And so I think you're going to have to overcome the kind of inertia of how people get work done. I think that's hard to do. And then the second thing is organizations just are not ready to change how they work. Are you really ready to say we're not going to hire any more PMs? Like, are you really ready to do those things? Are you really ready to prepare managers for a world where they're gonna have to manage 20 people or 40 people or 10 AI and 30 human? I don't think organizations are maturing enough in terms of their hierarchy, management structures, reward structures, compensation structures, budget structures, actually to be able to ingest the technology. So I think in all things, like the humans will lag the machines a little bit here. But I'm pretty bullish that a lot of problems can be solved. And I'm also bullish that humans have a real unique and valuable role to play in these new organizations. And in fact, it will create more innovation and more value rather than less.
So if I continue to steelman the other side,
Yeah.
because I want to represent all of the haters so that you can answer them,
Oh, they hate it for
uh,
sure.
is the problem with these AI tools is you might become more efficient as a PM, but you're still going to need to do a lot of these tasks. You're still going to need to spend the 2.5 hours to create that training bot to train sales on the new set of features. You're still going to need to interact with executives on product reviews so that they understand, even if it's an AI agent equipped dev team, what they're going to build.
Yeah, I think though what people underestimate is leverage, which is the capacity, and this is a lot of what I talked about in my config talk, which people hated. I mean, truly, we're like, who is this lady? There's no way you can do these 50 things on the slide. Um, Making it up. No, I know people that do that level of work, and it's because they have leverage, because they use tools to take an hour's worth of work and turn it into 100 hours worth of value for the company. And so I think, yeah, you're going to replace the hours with different kinds of work, but the output of that work is going to be significantly higher leverage and across a broader surface area and with more depth than you can do without those tools. And so I just think that, again, it betrays a lack of imagination to not think, could I do this job in a different way? Could I add more value in a different way? And let's make it a little selfish. If I add value in this differentiated way and I prove I'm an incredibly high leverage employee or teammate, that opens up growth opportunities for you. That opens up growth opportunities for the company because presuming you're operating in a higher leverage way, you're creating more value for your customers, you're creating more value for the company, promotion paths open up, new opportunities open up, all sorts of things open up. So I do think it's a little selfish to be at the front of the line figuring out how the product management world is going to transform because I think those who do are going to exceptionally outperform those who don't.
So if we dive into development and design, which are two of the areas that people have been hyping up as PMs will be able to do, I wonder if PMs eventually hit a roadblock though, right? Where they're saying, hey, we don't want PMs to have access to our GitHub or our code base, or we don't want PMs to have final say on design. Is there eventually a spot where they still need those experts in those specific fields?
So again, I think this is a human problem, not a technology problem. So I think the technology will get there. I think that we will make high quality design more and more accessible to folks with good taste and customer and product sense. I think we will make high quality code more accessible to folks that don't have deep computer science backgrounds. I think all those things will be very, very accessible. I think it's relatively inevitable and probably become very inexpensive as well. If you just look at the competition in the market and how much is available now, then you just cast that forward to the future. That being said, I think you have a human problem of egos. You have an organization problem of retaining high context, high talent, creative individuals that can have unique and hard to replicate impact on a product. And you want those people doing their best work. You want those people contributing. And so I think ultimately it comes down to a leadership challenge and a culture challenge. And I faced this LaunchDarkly. I think I talked about this a little bit at Lenny Summit, where we have explicitly put in an operating principle in our technology organization called There Are No Lanes. And we created this out of a little bit of territorial behavior between functions. So I am CPTO at LaunchDarkly. I lead all of technology. So everybody reports to me. Product, design, engineering, data. We're all one big happy family. And I have executives that lead those functions underneath me, but we really do operate this team as one team. And yet, functional silos do come up. Engineers write code, designers make designs, product managers define problem spaces, talk to customers. And what I was finding is these anti-patterns of behavior where a enthusiastic engineer would come up with a design and really offend a designer. Or a designer was sitting there waiting for a PM to write a PRD, and this PM's in meetings all day, and the product wasn't that complicated, and the PRD probably wasn't the blocker. And so, but they were doing it out of like respect for the lanes, like respect for my job as product. I shall not leave my lane. My job is design. I shall not leave my lane, etc. And so we made this explicit operating principle. There are no lanes. We're not going to get mad at each other for stepping into each other's lanes. If you can contribute work product, inform and contribute. And let's not let ego or territory get in the way. So I think there's one cultural thing. And then the other thing is, again, let's get selfish. No designer, or very few designers, go into user experience and think, man, I really want to be like a production designer for engineers so they don't screw up padding on a form. Like, that's my highest calling in the world, is to like, make sure that the pixels are right. No designer wants their experience and intuition, creativity going into like that. That's not great. What they want is to operate at the highest order of their craft. So what I tell designers is, look, cast off some of the stuff to design systems and these front-end prototyping tools. Like, don't spend time on wireframes. Let's think about the hard problems. Think about interaction design. Let's think about motion. Let's think about sound. Let's think about copy and all these kinds of things that really do benefit from this human touch. And so I kind of claim that if you're more generous with giving out different parts of the cross-functional work, you can sort of operate at the highest level of your craft. And I think that's very valuable and fun.
So, what is the forecast for the role itself? Like, the role itself of PM has had an unrelenting ascent from 2001 to 2021, where it was growing at 3% per year and it was compounding. And then in 2022, it actually dropped. In 2023, it stayed flat. Finally, in 2024, we hit that new all-time high of PMs above 2021. What is the future trajectory for the number of PMs?
Yeah, so I think people would presume that what I'm going to say is the sort of like ongoing meme on X, which is PMs are just going to become engineers and build things, and prototypes are going to replace PRDs and et cetera, et cetera. I actually think that some PMs will go that direction. So I do think some PMs will become more closely aligned with execution on the technical side, or they'll become more closely aligned with products, and they'll really become like experience managers. They're thinking about, how do I craft this experience? How do I make it high quality, understandable, get user from point A to point B, drive value for users so we can drive value for customers? I think that is certainly a path and a way that the product management role can shift. I think what people underestimate is PMs really becoming much more commercially oriented, and essentially, everybody wants to say they're a PM as GM, and no one wants to be put on variable comp for their P&L. And so I do think there is a certain type of product manager and product leader that is very business oriented, that has almost like a finance data or go-to-market revenue strategy background, and is really thinking about, okay, I'm presuming you're going to build a great experience and solve customer problems. Fine. You experience managers, go do that. You engineers, go do that. Designers, figure it out. What they're going to be thinking about is, how do I extract commercial value from this? Where are the go-to-market strategies that will actually work? How do I enable a workforce, whether human or AI, to go after these channels? And how do I actually grow this business line? And I think that's a really unique and interesting vector for product managers to think about, which is, how do they hone their commercial acumen? Which again, I think benefits from the protection of, at the end of the day, customers don't want to talk to AI as much. I think we see that. Customers don't want to interact with AI. They don't really want to interact with AI and support as much. Certainly not in sales. There is this value of human-to-human connection. Product managers can play a really unique role there because they have the technical lens on it, but they're bringing a much more business-forward mindset. but it can't be at the shallow level that most PMs think PM as GM operates. It's not OKRs. It's not like, oh, I'm going to increment this 2%. It is owning the business. And I also think that means that compensation structures are really going to change.
That was where I wanted to go next is, okay, if PM is really going to change into these two areas of experience management and GMing, what are the skills? What are the things that I, as a PM who's working as a PM today, should be focused on in order to adjust to this new reality?
So we can talk about those two things separately. I'll start with the experience manager, which is hot and fun and like demos really well, which is you got to get really good at talking to LLMs. And so my joke is I have one of those not very valuable liberal arts degrees, but joke's on you all. I'm very good at talking to LLMs. So you got to get really good with working with these tools and understanding how to use natural language to get out good output. I think especially if you're going to be one of these like AI powered PMs. You're going to need to learn to code. And I don't mean you're going to need to learn to output code in a tool. You're going to need to learn to read code. And so it's really funny. I've been teaching my 7-year-old to use some of these code generation tools. He's really into the NBA, and the NBA has an API. So we're like making these Python notebooks, pulling like player stats. And mom's making him read the code. Because if he's going to be an AI powered PM, kids got to read the code. And so I do think there's some fundamentals of software engineering that are really valuable to actually make you a relevant member of a technical team. I think that's why I have credibility is I went code first and then code gen second as opposed to code gen first. So I think you'll need to code. And then I do think taste matters. And so being exposed to a wide variety of digital experiences and digital products or products in the world, being able to decompose why an experience works for a human, how you would align an experience to a user goal, how you would gently move a user in the direction you want, and how to test and use data to get that right, I think is a really important skill. And honestly, I don't think they're things that product managers spend most of their time on. I think they're things that designers spend most of their time on. And I think there are things that engineers spend most of their time on. And so one of the things I'm curious about in this experience manager bucket is, do we really see more PMs becoming experience managers, or would you see more designers and engineers becoming more like PMs? So it'll be interesting to see what direction those moves come from. And then the second category, which is true GM, and what we do, what we see there, I think it's really going to be commercial and business strategy. And those are going to be things like channel management. How do you go to market? How do you acquire customers? Where do they come from? How do they cost? They will be things like pricing and packaging, which is actually very complicated. I'm candidly not great at it. I've hired somebody who's great at it. But pricing and packaging, how you think about the aspects of how you might commercialize any one product, and honestly, selling. I think people think that I've gotten to the place in my role because I'm an exceptional product thinker, engineer, all those things. I think I'm pretty good at that stuff. I am real good at selling. And so I think, being able to get in front of customer or user cohort or a market and really share the value of what you've built and set the stage for an exchange of value between user, customer, and your company is really important. And I wish more product managers spent time really understanding how their products are monetized, thinking about how to optimize that monetization, and then thinking about their product as a business.
And if you're looking to improve these skills, do you have specific resources or places people should go that are your favorites?
Yeah, I have two favorites: the School of Hard Knocks and working at a startup. So there's all sorts of great books. I have like a wall of great books. And at the end of the day, the reason why I think I have such breadth of skills is I really spent the majority of my career in startups of different stages. And startup life just gives you an exposure to a variety of functions, a variety of skills. You have to learn on the go. It is a great place to be for someone who wants to develop broad skills. If you want to develop narrow skills, go work a place where you are one of 10,000 PMs, you will get very good at being a PM at that company. If you want to have a very diverse set of skills, I encourage people to work at smaller companies where basically the job description for everybody is get it done. I recommend you take world tours in different functions. So I am a CPTO. I have been a copywriter. I have been a leader of a growth marketing team. I have run social media. I have run a design team. I have been a PM. I run a data team. Like I took the harbor tour of jobs in tech. And now I have a really robust set of experiences and skills to draw from. And I think you can only do that if you work at companies that give you sort of a diverse set of experiences. So I just think there's no other way to learn than to do. You read lots of books, you can do lots of things, you can admire leaders, you can follow their career journey, but I say get exposed to it and do it. And I think the best way to do that is work at a startup.
How much of it can you learn with side projects and things outside of your full-time job?
So what's really funny is you're probably going to ask me a little bit about ChatPRD next, and I'm excited to talk about it. My side project is like 20 years accrued experience being expressed in a very unique moment. And so I don't think everybody's going to have the side project experience that I'm having with ChatPRD because it really is. ChatPRD is like the outcome of 20 years of work. It's not something I just like came up with and released into the world. And so I do think side projects can give you building skills. So I think it's a great way to learn how to code. I think it's a great way to learn new technologies. I think it's a great excuse to spend time with customers. But the biggest challenge with side projects is distribution. And I think you are going to have a much easier time learning distribution strategies at companies that even have the tiniest inkling of a distribution foundation than trying to 0 to 1 it yourself. I think it takes a lot of time. I mean, you've built something. You know how hard distribution can be, how much discipline, how much time it really takes. In fact, it's the thing that I spend the least time on at ChatPRD, probably to its growth detriment. And so I do think you can learn building skills. I think it's harder to learn commercial and business skills because you don't get exposed to it at the scale where it really matters. But it's very fun, and it shows to me when people have side projects, it shows to me an intellectual curiosity and a sense of agency that I think bodes well in job searches and in general jobs. So I like to see it, but I think you have to be realistic about what you at your stage in career can get out of it at any one time.
Now I want to dig in a little bit more to kind of what this new world of PM looks like day to day. How does a day in the life of a PM look like, let's say 2 years from now versus 2 years ago?
I mean, 2 years ago we were all in pools, right? Very fun. No, I mean, I think that in the course of my career, I spent a lot of time documenting. I spent a lot of time managing expectations, managing engineer. I mean, like okay, actually 2 years ago, what is it? Docs and dates. Product managers writing docs, given dates. Given dates to engineers, given dates to executives, giving dates to customers, and then writing lots and lots of docs, either about products or about dates. Dates and docs. And I think now, like, you should be spending a lot less of your time on dates and docs. And so, I do think continuing to have more time with customers is really important. So I expect our PMs at LaunchDarkly to be very, very customer facing, spend a lot of time with customers. Thinking a lot more about the shape of the business is really important to me. And so I think you're going to be spending a lot less time writing things down as a PM in 2 years and a lot more time getting stuff actually done at the edges, whether that's at the commercial edge or the building edge. And so what I think is that product manager as translation layer, I hope goes away. And we make a solve for that because I don't think that's the highest use of anyone's talent. And instead, I think product managers can go spend time with customers, write some code, build some things, actually experience the product, and reduce the steps to adding value.
That's one of the most frustrating parts I remember of the PM job is you are like the entire company's expert on a feature once you launch it. So anybody who has a question about it, especially if it's a hard one that the knowledge base maybe wasn't already written for, they come to you.
You are the spokesperson of the product. It was really interesting. I was actually having a conversation the other day about somebody on the team who felt like their contributions to the product were being overshadowed by overshadowed by the PM's role as the internal kind of representative. And I said, you don't want that job. That is that is both a feature and a bug. The reason why that person stands up and represents your work is because we need one person that the entire org knows to answer questions. And I promise you, you do not want that person to be that person to be you. And so I do think product managers have to play that role. You have to craft yourself as playing that role because it is too confusing for the organization to say which of these 7 people on this team or these 24 people on this team or 120 people on the team do I go to answer this question. It can't just be, I don't know, figure it out. It has to be, Joe or whatever. So I do think that's a frustrating part of the role. And why do it? We're not the best at it. It's not, inherently human to be a, knowledge base. I think there are ways to solve for that. And I think smart product managers solve it for themselves.
How has the PM role at LaunchDarkly, what have you done to help PMs at LaunchDarkly embrace this new reality?
I mean, honestly, I think some didn't want to work in Clairvaux, America. So I do think it's being clear about what it means to be a product manager under a specific leader. And again, I have my style. You've seen it, as seen on the internet. It's what works for the teams that I'm on. It's what works for the organizations that I try to build. I think it's what drives value. So one, it's being clear and making it clear if that's not how you want to operate. No hard feelings. That's totally fine. But let's find a place where you're going to be more successful. Um, and then after you make those expectations really clear and you get the people that raise their hand and go, LFG, like I'm really excited, you support them with tools and you set them up for success. And so a couple things that I did is I hired a very commercially oriented product leader, Jen, our VP of product. She is a 20 out of 10 product and commercial strategist. And she really brings to the team, which was very biased towards more of that like experience side of things, a real commercial advisory to how they think about work. And so one is you round out the team with the skills that you want to see to sort of pull the organization in the direction you want it to go. 2, you get really generous around tools and you get very not particular about how work gets done. You just care about the work itself. And so people can use whatever tool they want. They can generate docs. There's no like secret ChatGPT in my house. Like, let's all lay it out on the line. We should all talk about the tools that we use. And then you have to show by doing. And so in every role that I've ever been, no matter how fancy the title, I'm going to PM something. So right now I'm PMing AI configs and I show up as the PM on that project visibly inside the company as the PM I want to see. Commercially oriented, very tight couple with customers, prototype in the product a lot, commercially oriented on a lot of sales calls. And so I think you also have to just show how it's done to set a new model, and then you have to reward it when people can rise to the occasion.
One implication that you've talked about, and I want to actually share my screen here for
Yep.
those of us watching on YouTube, but if you're not, we'll also talk through this, is the era or the rise of
Yep.
super IC PMs. And
Yep.
the first reaction everyone has looking at this list is, oh my gosh, this is a huge list. We're talking about scrappiness and hustle with like 13 bullet points under it, commercial mindset with like 13 bullet points
Yep.
under it, being indispensable with another. We're talking
Yep.
about like 40 things in total that we need our
Yep.
PMs to do in a world where if you go check the product management
Yep.
subreddit, the number one thing people say is they're expecting too much of me. This is an unfair role. I'm burnt out. How do you kind of thread the needle there? Like, what should we be expecting out of our product managers?
So I will say, I work in tech in San Francisco. I know these people. These people work for me. I compensate them very well, and they have a lot of fun. So, like, if you don't want to do it, great. Like, truly don't do it. Don't do it. But there are people that can. There are people that can. They work for me. We compensate them exceptionally well. And they look at this and go, this is fun. This is fun. This is how I operate. And again, if you look at this list, it's not meetings, it's not tasks, it's attributes, it's culture, it's soft skills. I mean, if somebody says there's no way I could have customer relationships, sales relationships, and marketing relationships, you should not be a product manager. And so I think these are attributes of the highest performing product managers. I think if I'm going to hire product managers, I'm going to hire, as I say, killers only in the house. Like, we're going to try to hire the best of the best. We will hold them to a very high bar and we will compensate them well. And so, now look, you have to make your own decision as an individual of, one, do I think I'm compensated fairly relative to the impact I'm having on my company? And look, I've been in places where that calculus doesn't work out. You can also decide if you want to work at a company with someone like Claire, where this is how you operate. If that doesn't feed you, there are lots of other jobs, lots of other companies where you can go work where folks have different expectations. The people that work on teams that I lead, I think we want to win. I think we want to. We had a joke today that the only prize we won is net new ARR. Like, we're very business oriented folks, and we're competitive and we're hardworking. And so I think this is a reflection a little bit more of attribute and team culture than it is how do you fill 40 hours a week. I don't think anybody on my team is, burning the midnight oil. In fact, I think I'm probably up the latest of most people when we talk about how I quote unquote do it all. I don't think this is about hours. I think this is about how you operate in your role as product management, where you find leverage through tools and don't spend a lot of time on things, and where it's really important to show up culturally. So I think these people exist, and if you're out there and this is exciting to you, I'm always hiring.
Trust isn't just earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a seasoned professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or more complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance needs across over 35 frameworks like SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Centralized security workflows, complete questionnaires up to 5 times faster, and proactively manage vendor risk. Vanta can help you start or scale your security program by connecting you with auditors and experts to conduct your audit and set up your security program quickly. Plus, with automation and AI throughout the platform, Vanta gives you time back, so you can focus on building your company. Join over 9,000 global companies like Atlassian, Quora, and Factory who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. For a limited time, my listeners get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/Akash. That's VANTA.com/AAKASH for $1,000 off. So there might be an element then that there's like a bifurcation almost, where there are some PMs who are getting highly compensated doing all of these activities that we have here, friends with partners, friends with executives, bestseller on the team. And what happens to the PMs who can't really do all of them?
I mean, I think there are still lots of very lucrative tech jobs. I just think I really believe in this super IC path because I think product teams are going to get smaller and smaller. I really do. I just think that individuals become higher leverage. The ratio will change. This is something that I believe. You don't have to believe it, but I believe it. I need to create career paths for high impact, high potential product managers that do not involve them being quote unquote a people manager to other PMs. It is an unsustainable organization structure for the future. And so I think this represents a growth path for an experienced product manager who probably is operating this way and wants to have higher and higher impact on the organization, but not people manage. And this is what's really interesting. I think if you took any VP of product, senior director of product, director of product, who has 5 to 10 direct reports, they're spending all their time in one-on-ones. They're spending all their time people managing. You cut that out of their day-to-day, a lot of their time that they could be spending is going towards that list. And so I do think it's a little bit about time allocation, what you reward, the shape of the job. And I just hope that the shape of the job goes more and more towards the actual work, like the customer-oriented value-creating work. Then it becomes about the work around the work or the work around the people, which to me is internally valuable, but creates no value for your customers.
So traditionally, whereas your engineering org, it was very common. You had like an engineering manager, they might have 10 reports.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, what you'd see on the other side, on the product management side, is there might be 3 PMs reporting to one group
Yep.
product manager or one
Yeah.
director, and there might be 2 or 3 directors or group product managers reporting to the VP, and it's a little bit more like 1 to 1 or 1 to 3 sort of up the reporting
Yeah.
chains. What does the future reporting chain in PM look like?
Yeah, I think that's a reflection of managers not being able to be creative about what a growth path looks like for a PM. And our industry not being creative about what a great senior leader and product manager has to look like. And so I think orgs are going to get a lot flatter. My org is very flat, sometimes to my detriment, but my org is very flat. Our product org is very flat. We only have one one layer in our org. Um, and even then we suffer with these like I formations or 2 or 3 reports into somebody. And the reason why we have allowed those formations to happen is actually not about people management, although that's a helpful aspect. It is about internally knowing who the throat to choke is on a surface area, which is, it really is, yes, you have the people management responsibility, but it's really you have the product line responsibility, and it happens that those people are contributing to the product line. So we really take it a product first orientation. We say, does this product line need a singular leader? And does this product line merit this level of investment in product management? And if that is true, and the leader has sufficient people leadership experience to not totally fudge it, then let's put the people under that because it creates internal clarity for the organization. And it also, provides higher leverage in terms of crafting career paths and all those things that become hard to do at a certain scale. So I think orgs are gonna get flatter. I think my role, this like CPTO role, will probably continue to happen more and more as the lines between product engineering blur and the lines between product engineering and design blur. You're really going to need leaders that understand the full function and can create kind of creative organization structures around, uniquely motivated and skilled individuals. I don't care if an engineer has a software engineering background, all of a sudden wants to be a product manager, but never PM'd at Google. Who cares? If they can get the job done at LaunchDarkly, like let's call them a product manager or let's create a new role around them. So I think you have to be really creative in the future, but I certainly think orgs are going to get more flat.
So that's what happens to the middle of the org. We have a flattening out where people become super ICs. What does the death of PM mean for VPs of product and CPOs? How does their role change?
I know people always think that I mean them and not us, and I definitely definitely mean us. I mean, I am actively creating my own demise. ChatPRD, your on-demand chief product officer, let me work myself out of a job. Let me like replace myself, and I can add more value. So I do think it's coming for leaders. I actually think this is the number one mistake made by executives in organizations right now is they think that AI will transform their organization and AI will transform their customers and AI will absolutely never transform them. And I just think it's so naive. I think it's so naive. I think it's full of so much ego. And in fact, I think one of the things that AI is best at is strategy. And so I think it's definitely coming for us. So, how I think it's going to change. One, you are just I don't think product leaders have spent a lot of time thinking about the change management of state change technologies. And what I mean is like if you are not obsessing every day about how my organization is going to be different in 18 months or 36 months or 5 years or 10 years, and my team needs to be trained differently and I need to show up to customers differently because this is a truly state change technology, you will not be an S tier CPO, in my opinion. You will be left behind. And so I think there's this sort of like obsessive consideration for the possible futures that needs to happen in product leaders. I think they need to think about their organizations as dynamic, not fixed, which is just because your structure is like this today does not mean it should be structured like that tomorrow, and getting really creative about what moves forward. And then, same as I tell individual IC product managers, do you have the commercial skills? Can you code? Like, are you fluent with these tools? Have you challenged what parts of your job you can create leverage in versus not? Are you walking the walk, or are you just writing checks to OpenAI for the rest of the team? I think those things are really important. And honestly, I think the existential threat is competition from other talent. Um, who will we all want to hire as a CPO or a VP of product or a VP of engineering in 3 years? And what skills and proof points are they going to have to show? Would you rather have the VP of engineering that has 2 years of agentic code generation under their belt, or the one that said it's not going to replace my engineers ever, so I haven't really experimented that much depth? So I think you just really have to prepare again your future for what you think the world's going to look like. And so, maybe TLDR, role's going to collapse. You're going to have to be much more broad based. Your organization and the way you manage is going to change. So you might as well be prepared for that. And then, the third thing is I think that product managers or product leaders aren't curious enough about what this world of AI means for how products are designed and built. And so ChatPRD could go to zero. I'd be very sad. Our customers would be very sad. And it would still be worth it because I have learned so much about building AI products. And that is just an education that you cannot afford to miss in this moment. So even if your current product does not force you to think about agentic experiences, AI experiences, if you don't learn that, no one is going to hire you in a couple of years because you will be lacking skills that are going to become pretty commonplace. And so that is my urgent plea to my fellow chief product officers, VPs of product leaders is it is coming for you. So think about what that means and really upskill yourself.
So now where I want to go, and we've alluded to this a little bit, is that you walk the walk, right? We've been giving all this advice out about learning to code and programming, and you have been doing that with ChatPRD. So the first thing I would love is if you can share your screen and show us all the things you've been shipping over the last year or two with ChatPRD.
All right, to start, I would be remiss not to call out that ChatPRD got a glow up, as we say in the biz, and we have a brand new brand. So people might not know this about ChatPRD. I did not actually intend this to be an at scale enterprise SaaS business like it is today. As I tell my friends, I owed my hobby into a second job. So joke's on me. I actually started ChatPRD as just a tool that I wanted to build for myself, for my product teams. I registered ChatPRD on a whim. I made the GPT as a whim. And our avatar used to be this version of me with sunglasses and a laptop and headphones. But we have grown up now a little over a year later, and we have this beautiful new brand to sort of represent that we're working with some of the most amazing companies in the world and helping their product teams be better at product managers. And I really do think we're the number one AI tool for product managers and their teams in terms of usage, in terms of broad base. I think we're adding a lot of value. So a little facelift. But more important than facelift is the functionality. So ChatPRD is really oriented to being your AI PM co-pilot to help you get your product work done faster. And while we work with a lot of product managers, my favorite use cases of product ChatPRD are actually non-PMs who need PM skills. So those could be engineers who need to write PRDs, VPs of product who aren't really ICPMs but always get tagged in to do a little work, or other folks that would just benefit from some product thinking. And as I joked earlier, product management is dates and docs. And so what ChatPRD, I think one of the reasons why ChatPRD has been successful is we've just embraced the fact that product managers create a lot of docs. And if we can make product documentation, sharing context a lot easier for product managers and up-level their thinking, we could really create a lot of value for PMs, make their lives happier, and ultimately help them create better products. So one of the changes that we've made to ChatPRD recently is we've accepted we make a lot more than PRDs. So I'm going to go into our templates feature, which is one of our most beloved feature. I think you're in here. So we'll get a little snapshot of you, but We have over a dozen out of the box templates of different docs that you can create. Oh, look, here's you. Look at that. So if you want the best one, we'll make this default. We'll use your PRD. But this is a combination of different PRD templates, one pagers, competitive analysis, stakeholder decks, checklists, all the kinds of things that product managers can make. And you can actually upload your own templates if you want. So you can import them from PDF, you can paste in the text. We'll actually use AI to scaffold out a template. So this has been a really useful feature for our customers because they want to be able to create not just PRDs, but all the documentation that product managers want to create. And they want to be able to do that in their company format. So they want to be able to do their PRD template, their PR FAQ. And so templates have been a really useful feature of ChatPRD. We also have several integrations. So we have Google Drive and Notion integration for importing and exporting documents. So we know ChatPRD is not yet the source of truth for all docs. We want to make it really easy to work with your current sources of truth. And then we have a Slack bot where you can actually chat with ChatPRD directly from Slack. So as I was saying earlier, I think the biggest challenge to product adoption is actually workflow and getting in the workflow. And where do PMs work? They work in Slack. So we have the Slack bot that you can actually just like at ChatPRD, can you make me a PRD based on this like thread? And it will make the PRD for you in line and send you a link. It's really a nice experience. And then we recently released a concept called projects. So if you've used Anthropic's Claude's, artifacts, things like that, you're probably familiar with the concept of projects, which are specialized ChatPRD assistants that have context about a specific area. So I have for my ChatPRD project, I have a pricing and packaging project. It has my pricing and packaging plans, and it's going to help me think about price points, packages, upgrade paths, monetization. So it's really focused on that use case, and then learns, sorry, existing customers, I'm brainstorming ways to increase prices by 20%. But it helps me, work on different pricing related initiatives and learns from all the knowledge here in the chat. But let's show off the kind of basic flow of ChatPRD and get a document written. So look at that. I selected yours as default. Oh, look at that. We're going to use your PRD. And we're going to say, what am I working on? And I am working on ChatPRD has a Teams feature, an enterprise plan. So we're starting to work with larger and larger companies that have 50, 100, et cetera, PMs. And the admins of those companies, the people who are the buyers, the commercial buyer, always want to know like who's active and are they getting value and how's that working? And so I've been playing with this idea of an admin reporting center where teams admins, those who sponsor the ChatPRD account, can get reports on how their teammates are using ChatPRD, usage, time saved, etc. That seems like a pretty good idea. Okay, so I'm going to click go. Non-deterministic model, non-determined. So it's either going to start writing that document really quickly because it knows me well, nope, but it's going to ask me. So this is what we like about ChatPRD. We don't just build it to like create anything. It really wants to work with you as a co-pilot to make sure that this document is going to be great. And it's not going to be great based off like one sentence. So it's going to ask me for input about what I need. I'm going to say one primary goal is to show value to buyers so they expand and retain. 2, I want it to include chats and docs created, as well as an estimate of time saved. 3, as real time as possible. 4, all of this data is available in our prod database, but we want it to be as performant as possible. And then 5, keystone growth. No stakeholders. I am everyone. Okay. And so it's going to take that information and then it should start drafting a PRD based on your template. And so what this is doing, I mean, everybody thinks that this is sort of it's gonna be an outline. Love this. Yep, usage metrics.
I'm
This all
liking the template and sections.
Yeah, it's really nice. So again, feedback, right? It's not just like I'm going to YOLO you, a bunch of text. It's like, does this look right? And I'm going to go, this looks awesome. Please write the doc. So then it should write the document. It should give me a little spinner here in a hot minute. So here it is. It's writing that admin reporting PRD. Again, you're going to see your sections: problem, high level approach, narrative, metrics, how we're going to size it, solution, key features, all this kind of stuff. Super awesome. So now I have this document. I can ask ChatPRD to actually update that document. So if I have feedback, I can say, I don't love the high level approach. Can you fix that? I like to say my boss is really mean. Can you edit it with like a really mean chief product officer's lens on that, and all those sorts of things. So I have this document. It's not just the doc itself. You can actually edit the document in our real-time editor here. And so we have a text editor that lets you go in and edit. You can make AI changes to the content. You can comment and mention your colleagues. You can do all this stuff, and then you can export it to Google Drive or Notion, or if you're me, you can export it to Markdown and use it inside Cursor. So that's a little bit of the spin of what ChatPRD does. And then the other thing that's kind of cool about ChatPRD is you can actually switch templates. So let's say I love this and it's like, this is 10 out of 10, super great. And I want to take this to the next step and create it for marketing. I can switch to the PRFAQ template. Now I'm using the PRFAQ template. I can say, this PRD looks awesome. Generate a PRFAQ for me. And it will take the same content and create a new style document for you based on the content of your template. So we've the investment in multi-doc chats has been a really big one for us in the past couple weeks. So now we're seeing people creating 4 or 5 different assets off the same kind of product space. People really love the editor and the export. And then the projects workflow, where people are really centralizing around shared knowledge spaces with their team and really learning from the documents they're generating, so that each time you're generating things, it gets better and better. So that's ChatPRD.
And now where I want to see in action is your AI development tool
Oh,
stack.
yeah.
Can we actually try to start developing this? How would we build this?
Okay, so we're not going to build this one because this one's going to take a gajillion years. But I did want to show something, because people always think that I'm lying when I say I used Devin, and I'm really not. We're not lying. And so one of the things that I thought, it's not a thrilling use case, but we're going to do it anyway, which is this early access banner is actually out of date. And so projects is no longer in early access. It's available to pro teams or enterprise plans. So really what this should be is an upgrade flow for ChatPRD. And really what it should say is, you want access to teams? Like, click here to upgrade, and it should send people to the plans page. And so what I would do, I don't want to write code. I'm in meetings all day. So I'm going to screenshot this thing. I'm going to go into ChatPRD. She's going to behave. And I'm going to actually, one of our most popular templates is no template, which is just do your best. And I'm going to say, I need a quick technical spec for a small task for my engineer. I want to replace the early access banner on projects with a CTA for anyone who is in the basic plan to upgrade to pro, teams, or enterprise to get access to the project's feature. So I'm going to ask ChatPRD to write me a PRD. Sometimes I need it for Devin. Sometimes I don't, but I think it's good practice. And they love Markdown. They, being the AI, love Markdown. So I tend to do this just because it tends to save me a bunch of back and forth on tasks. So again, it's going to give me a task overview, current state, desired change, target audience, text, unlock projects. That's great. I don't care. I don't want to be a copywriter. Consistent with branding. End of spec. Love it. So the AI knows we're done. Okay, so I'm going to actually go into the editor here and I'm going to click export and export this to Markdown. So I have a nice little Markdown file down here. And then I am going to, which is always a thrill, open Slack on a screen share. So I would then, grab my Slack because, again, I love operating with my AI colleagues as I would in any other world, which is with Slack. You can see I have a long-standing, very compelling chat with Devin that I do all the time. And I'm just going to drag this this PRD here, and I'm going to say, hey, Devin, I'm very polite to my AI, just in case you're wondering. Could you please make an upgrade to the banner on the Drive projects page about access to the projects feature? Here is the PRD. I want it to link to plans if the user does have access. Otherwise, just don't show. Okay. So it has this really nice spec that it used that we just created from ChatPRD. It's going to wake up. Devin sleeps and awakes. And so it's going to wake up. He's very polite. What I love about AI is they never like, why are we doing this? Or is this a priority? Like they never ask me, should we prioritize this? Or is it a priority that just do it? It's like really quite delightful. And so what he's going to do, he's going to go off and create a branch and do this work for me. So I should get an alert soon that says that he's working on a plan. If I want him to confirm with me, which I don't care, I let the AI run wild. It can say confirm, or you can say confirm with me, and it'll like double check with you, but YOLO, let's let it run. And then this will run and go write the code. So it's going to take a little while. Again, what I think is really interesting from an AI product design perspective is you really have to work with latency and async feedback. So you really have to work with how long is somebody going to have to wait, set expectations? How do you create feedback that the AI is thinking or working? How do you give the user confidence that something is happening even when, as you see here, things aren't happening? And so I think there's some like pretty interesting product design questions that come up with this guy, but he'll run for a little bit and we'll come back when the PR is live.
All right. So we'll come back when the PR is live. What's your advice for people who want to build a 6-figure side hustle like yourself?
Work for 20 years, shit post on Twitter, create a channel for yourself, and then have a high tolerance for pain. Is that it? I mean, look, again, I said this earlier. Everybody's like, oh, Claire did this. This is an incredible amount of work that did not just start a year ago. I have a career, I have a network, I have an audience, I have experience on the product side. I learned to code. I did many, many failed startups before ChatPRD or before more successful startups. So again, I don't want to undersell how much work has actually gone in to me being able to build a product like ChatPRD. Now, if you want to build one on the side, be prepared to commit a lot of time to it. Like, I get up at 5 a.m. I work, I hang out with my kids, I go to work, I come home from work, I hang out with my kids, I work. Like, I'm answering support tickets at night. Like, this is not glamorous. It doesn't just like print money on the side. I use a lot of AI, so that's really nice. But it is a tremendous amount of work. So I think that's one thing to consider. Be able to dedicate the time. 2, pick a problem you actually know something about and is a real problem. It is very hard to build businesses that don't solve real problems. And so many, like side hustle things are like solutions in search of a problem. Like, you actually have to find something that people need, and you need to understand that There has to be a significant enough TAM for that problem that you can get enough users to make the thing worth it. And then the other thing that I think has been really fun is bootstrapping makes you such a good product manager because you have no excuse when it comes to investing resources, and you are ruthless about not over investing resources and things that aren't worth it. And I think one of the best benefits of something like ChatPRD is it's really kept me quite honest about what product market fit looks like. Product market fit looks like you upgrade your models to O3, and in 13 seconds, somebody messages you and is like, ChatGPT's acting weird. Like, it's weird today. Did you do something? And so, and I think so many PMs, when you work inside a large organization that has so much scaffolding about willing a product to be useful and rarely deprecates things, rarely admits, like, we shouldn't have built this, bootstrapping something and keeping yourself really honest about product market fit is a very valuable thing to do. So I don't know if I have any advice other than it's hard, it takes a lot of time, and it makes you a better PM, and I hope it works out for you.
Love it. Yeah, having built-in distribution, I think, is super important. Deeply
Yeah.
understanding your problem space,
Yep.
incredibly important. And then, yeah, the grind. I mean, most of us, we aren't willing to wake up before our kids and work
Yep.
after we put our kids to bed. And
Yep.
so that's grind element is very important as well.
Yep.
So how is Devin doing with its PR?
No, he's really oh, he did it. Look at that. We chit chat for a little bit. Okay. Create a PR. I'll let you know once it's ready for review. It's usually ready for review. It's like waiting for usually waits, yeah, file already changed the files. So it tends to wait for, yeah, the Vercel like pre-flight checks to happen. And so let's check the file. So what I would typically do here is I would like look at the code. Yes, if subscription plan is basic, then show this new thing, unlock projects. That all looks delightful. That looks right. And I don't want to write that code, to be perfectly honest. And then what I would tend to do is I would run this locally. Unfortunately, I don't think locally. No, I might have a basic. I don't think I have a basic plan locally, easy, logged in. But I would check this locally and I would go look at projects. Maybe the easiest thing to show locally is that banner no longer exists. Fingers crossed. So I would turn this. Oh, I'm not even in the right branch. That's going to be a problem. So I would go to Devin's branch. I would pull it up locally. I would confirm that it has done perfect and unassailable high quality engineering work. I would check a couple edge cases, and then I would approve the PR, and we would ship it, and it would be live. And I can do this. I tend to do this. Just finding you. I tend to do at least one of these around 5:45 in the morning every day. So whether it's like, hey, Devin, I noticed something weird, or there's this bug reported overnight, or whatever, I tend to, yep. Okay. So that banner is now gone, which is what we wanted on my Teams account, which is what I need. And we'll have to go check, let's see if I have what does ChatPRD test 2 subscribe to? Who knows? But I would go test another thing. And we would check that all this works. So that's how you build stuff with AI.
So the QA is pretty important, and then you can ship it.
Yeah, QA, and again, like read the code. So I do a lot of like looking at the code. Would I do it this way? Does this make sense? Do I like the library that the AI chose? But yeah, I tend to do QA. It's hard to get Devin to do QA because it's really hard to keep Devin's environment easy. It's like working with an engineer who can write code but somehow can't use computers. So, like, the QA piece I haven't quite figured out. It's a little bit of like user error and agent error. So we've mutually just accepted that Devin writes code, I QA and review code, and it's a nice relationship. But yeah, that's how we do it. A little simple example, but you can see if you're on your phone at the playground watching your kids, I'm not going to pull up VS Code and like write HTML. That sounds boring. So this is part of how I get stuff done.
And that is where I wanted to end. I feel like you have a different day than us. You don't have the 24-hour day that we have. You unpacked it a teeny bit where You're working when they're asleep. So it sounds like you're trading off sleep a little bit
No,
for
I'm
that.
actually not working when they're asleep. So this is what's so funny. You take a 24-hour day, you sleep 8 hours a day, which I really try to sleep 8 hours a day. That's 16 hours in your day. I would say, like, dedicated to work and, like, the pickup and drop off and all that is you 10 hours off that. So then you have 6 hours a day that are, like, yours to do. And even if you, admittedly, like me, like, waste away 90 minutes of those 6 hours scrolling scrolling X, you still have, like, 4.5 hours in your day. And that's, and the things that I prioritize in those 4.5 hours in a day are my kids and my husband. And so I take them to school and pick them up almost every day. We do homework every night. We eat dinner at home. I'm not actually on my computer after the kids go to bed unless it is an emergency because I want to spend time with my husband. So we watch like a little TV and hang out and lights out by 9:45, but I get up real early. I get stuff done before the kids are up. And then I work the weekends. So I was thinking about it this weekend. I work 7 days a week. Like truly, I work 7+ days a week. So not just on ChatPRD, I have to check in on LaunchDarkly stuff. Like no executive does not have to do that. I work 7 days a week. So I just think people don't hear what it actually takes to have a side hustle, and it takes prioritizing time and effort to get stuff done and like how you spend those hours. And I'm not saying everybody wants to spend those hours like I do. I find this very fun. It's intellectually fulfilling. It's interesting. My kids hang out with me. They love it. My 7-year-old yesterday said high risk, high reward. I was like, dude, we are hanging out way too much. You have too much time with me if you're saying high risk, high reward. And so, I just love it. It's fun. It fills me, but I spend time on it. But it definitely comes after I spend time on the things that I love the most, which are my kiddos and my family.
I think loving it is important if you're going to be working on it on the weekends. And so that is a critical thing for anyone listening.
Yeah. It's got to be fun. It's super, I mean, it's so fun. So fun to me. It's just such a delight. But so is my work at LaunchDarkly. I love my job. I think I'm real good at it. And I ChatPRD is a LaunchDarkly customer and LaunchDarkly uses ChatPRD for product work. Like I think building things is the most fun job in the world. I say this every time. When you go back to like that slide is scary, I think that slide is play for pay. That slide is like making friends and being creative and playing games and competing for like San Francisco tech dollars. Like I have the top 0.1% of jobs in the whole world. I get to sit in my house and type into a laptop and make magic internet and do it with incredibly smart people. Like I just think if you take a step back and you think about the gratitude that we can even have these creative jobs, I just come to my work with an immense sense of gratitude. I come to my work with an immense sense of appreciation for what I get to do. And when you have that mindset, it just really doesn't feel like work.
Well, if you're not excited after that, I don't know what's going to excite you and get you motivated to work on stuff you love. If people want to find you online, where can they do that?
Yeah, so I am on X at Clairvaux, and you can also hit us up at ChatPRD at hello@ChatPRD. And then, of course, I am at LaunchDarkly as well. So if you're a software engineering team, hit me up at the old LaunchDarkly website.
Amazing. Claire, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. This was super fun.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Also, please consider giving us a rating or leaving a review, as that really helps other listeners find out about the podcast. You can find all the past episodes or learn more about the show at product-growth.com. See you in the next episode.